since before she was a reverend through her beautiful music. She's played for our concert series and spoke for us at the UU Church in Huntsville, and she spoke here before as well. I've also known the Reverend Meg Barnhouse even longer than Kiya through her workshops at conferences I've attended since the 80s. Rev Kiya is now the minister of the UU Fellowship of Brazos Valley, who recently donated this lovely pulpit, who we went to pick up, and we were very impressed with their brand new, beautiful building. It was beautiful both aesthetically and the vibrancy of its people. Even though it was Saturday, it was full of people. And the grounds were also great. I was just very impressed. James was most impressed with its $100,000 sound system. But let's have a warm welcome back for Rev Kiya. And please record the service. Please record.
Thank you, Pam. How y'all doing? So we're not a fellowship anymore. We're actually a church. So it can happen. It is quite a journey. The 4 years I've been there, we went from being a fellowship and losing our building on the A&M campus that was in the shadow of the stadium. Okay, and then we moved to Bryan and got 4.5 acres and built a church with a young architect who is my neighbor. I live about a mile from the church, and Meg and I moved up there when Meg got her diagnosis with cancer, and she gave up the church in Austin, and I took this church. So that is the story, that is the backstory and what's going on here. But now we're about 160 people at our congregation, and 45 of them are children. Yeah, it's very wide diversity of people, styles of people, ages of people, and I think it's possible. And so today I'm going to talk to you about something that's a movement that I found out because I'm going to school to be a Reverend Doctor, which is crazy. Reverend Dr. Kiya, that's crazy. But I'm going to Austin Pres in a program called the Wonder Track. And the Wonder Track is about infusing art into worship in the 21st century. So I do stuff a little bit weird. I hope it's okay with you. Is that all right? Okay. So this woman wrote a book. She is up in Michigan where the weather is beautiful right now. I feel sorry for them about December, but that's it. And she wrote a book called Refugia-Creating. Now, what is that word? I heard that word and I went, what does it mean? So this is a quote from her. Her name is Deborah Rystra, and her book is called Refugia-Creating, if you want to read it, which you might. Refugia are places of shelter where life survives and begins again after a disturbance. In a time of climate disruption and social unraveling, we are called not to escape, but to cultivate refugia, little pockets of hope, healing, and resistance. So, does that not sound like what we need to be as Unitarian Universalists? Now, there are also some liberal other people doing it as well, so that's good. So I first heard this term, refugia, from my friend Reverend Molly Belcher, who is an Episcopal priest up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a neighbor of the woman who wrote the book, and one of my cohorts in the DMIN program at Austin Pres. Molly's church is in the process of transforming their entire yard because they were paying, $100, $200 every 2 weeks, every 10 days to get mowed. They decided they were going to go back to being a tall grass prairie. They got a bunch of people who are activists in that, and they're really dedicated to it. They wanted to increase the pollinators. They wanted to plant native plants. They wanted people to be able to use it like a park. They have about 4.5 acres like we do at our place too. Now, she showed me a movie. They showed a movie in class. And in this movie, Molly's talking, and her, those matriarchs of the tribe are talking about what they did and how they did it and how difficult it was. Because you have to remove all the grass, and you have to remove all the, they're not weeds, they're just plants that are extremely good at surviving in a place you don't want them. So they have done it, and it was messy. And she talks about, like her mom used to tell her that she had to get in her grubbies to go out and play, that they're in their grubbies a lot working on this thing. But it's starting to be really, really beautiful. And people are starting to stop and walk there and do silent meditations and walk on the trails and all that. And this is what we need in this day and age. Because, yes, democracy's in trouble. Yes, we're all in a little bit of trouble. I'm not allowed to tell you who did it, but I'm allowed to say, yeah, we're in trouble. What are we going to do about it? Well, all we can do is affect the things that we can and not get overwhelmed by the things we can't change. Like, I don't know, those of y'all with kids, those of y'all that are struggling with your own health issues, those of y'all who are on very limited budgets, you cannot go to Washington. Maybe you can, but I don't think so. What can we do where we could actually make a difference and keep ourselves from just being a cortisol overwhelm? You know what I mean? Our bellies just get bigger. We just want to eat our way through it. It's terrible, right? What can we do? I think thinking differently about church and thinking about church as a refugia. Another term, refugia, comes from biology. Like when Mount St. Helens blew and then all that ash fell and killed everything around the mountain? Well, there were pockets that didn't die. Those are refugia. And from them, they reseeded. So we thought it was going to take 30 years for it to come back, but it only took about 10 because of the refugias. So if we start thinking of this place as a little island of refuge for people of goodwill, for ideas that need to survive, for people who are activists who are tired and they need to sing some songs and feel better, right? That's what I want you to do. And it's a really ancient idea, turns out. So it merges ecological and spiritual consciousness. It originates from the ecological concept of refugia, places where life survives and regenerates during times of crisis and collapse, such as during glacial periods, forest fires, human-induced destruction. I think that we're in the last category. These refuge of lives protect seeds and species and possibilities of renewal. Possibility of renewal, that's what we're about. Unitarian Universalism is exactly what we're talking about. Refugia faith is about cultivating spiritual, social, and economical spaces of resilience, resistance, and regeneration during turbulent times. I got a new shirt. It's Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear's 81st birthday was just like last week. And it says, resist. And he's got fire. It's quite inspiring shirt. I don't know about you, but this world feels cracked open. The winds of the climate crisis are blowing, injustice roars, division widens. It is tempting to retreat, to hide, to eat Oreos, to numb ourselves. Nature teaches us another way. It teaches us about refugia, those quiet, resilient places where life hangs on during upheaval. In the scorched corners of the forest after the fire, in the crevices of the mountain after the flood, In the hidden pockets of prairie after drought, life endures. And from these sanctuaries, life returns. Be the people of Refugia. No matter what happens, we're doing our best, and we will try to stop the madness as fast as we can. But if it doesn't stop as fast as we want, we need to hold the light. We need to hold the space. You have a beautiful place here. Beautiful place. So that live oak tree speaks to me. Every time I come here, I'm like, howdy. In the ecological sense, Refugia are not untouched Edens. They are not immune to harm. They are simply places where enough survives, just enough to begin again. In times of collapse, Refugia are holy. I wonder if our congregation can't be that. Can you all be that? Would you want to be that? Is that something you all want to do? I mean, you have this whole town. Now, one of the interesting things that I was going to show you a movie about, and you can watch it on YouTube, there's a movie called Church Forest of Ethiopia. Because anybody ever been to Ethiopia and seen the churches there? Those churches are from the period of Christianity in the 1st century when it was Jewish Christianity. And those churches are built in the style, they're round. They kind of look like bullseyes if you look at them from space. And they believed that they were supposed to keep a forest around the church. The middle of the church, only the priest goes in, and they've got a copy of the Ark of the Covenant in the middle, and only the priest goes in there. And then there's a wall, a center wall, and then people pray around that center wall like they do in Jerusalem. And then there's an open area where they have, I guess potlucks, but I don't know. But in Ethiopia, there are all these cattle, and what's happened is there's only 3% of the forest left in the whole country, and the only place where that forest is around churches. So this is what they've been doing. They've been going and taking these churches and convincing the priests to build a wall like they have on the inner sanctum around the outside of the forest, which allows, and maybe a little bit farther out, so that the trees can regenerate. Because what's been happening is when the trees start regenerating and they get the little acorns and they start coming up, the cattle eat it immediately. So what they did is they're getting their communities to build these outside walls and making their space bigger and increasing the forest. And it's totally working. So if you want to be inspired, check this out. Plus, in Ethiopia, for 1,000 years now, 2,000 years, they have these hermits, and they have a holy name in Ethiopian, which I don't remember. But they live in the forest. They look like Rastafarians, and they kind of dress like Buddhist monks. They're kind of in yellow robes, and their dreads are everywhere. And you never see them, but they're praying for the restoration of the world, and they live in those forests. They're praying for the restoration of the world. And so there's an article in National Geographic, if you want to read it. Look for the Church Forest of Ethiopia on National Geographic. And the guy who was doing the story, he ran into one of these hermits. And the hermit said, "What is the name of your family? Tell me the name of your children. Tell me the name of your wife, and I will pray for them." Isn't that cool? And evidently, these guys, they get so holy that they disappear. They're still there. You can hear them, and you can feel them around, but you don't see them anymore. Anyway, that's pretty cool too. So that is an ancient concept of refugia. But there are I know of, if you get on her, Deidre's the woman who wrote the book. Her name is Deborah Reinstra, Reinstra, Reinstra. Her book is called Refugia-Faith. I think there's even a couple of YouTube videos for her talking at the Savannah UU Church. So this is a very new idea in Unitarian Universalism. But I thought of you all immediately when I thought I was coming down. So because of this. what you have out there, that's a peaceful place. That's a nice place to think and get your life together, right? What if you all started like doing, I don't know, take people for silent walks on the beach, kind of like Thich Nhat Hanh meditation, or, I mean, are you already doing that? I don't want to be rude and say something you're already doing, but that kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that we can do and affect everybody's peace. And when people are not in their lizard brain and they can think, I believe that they will make good decisions. Do you know what I mean by lizard brain? When you're upset and you're just being bombarded by all this fascist, annoying fascist stuff, whoever is doing it, if that's happening, you start panicking and your brain goes into lizard brain, fight or flight. You start planning your move to Mexico. You start planning your move to, right? As a non-binary lesbian person, I am thinking about it all the time. There's no way to not be thinking about it in the state of Texas. Do you know that they just painted, that Florida painted over the Pulse Memorial? Do you know that the next day it was chalked back in? That's Refugia right there. Do what you can while maintaining your peace. Maintain your peace. Go hang out here. You know, talk about it here. Get a picture in your mind. Dream up what kind of refugia this place can be. You all know it much better than I do. You should be able to do it. We have 2 fire circles, one for the little kids and one for the big kids, where they can drum to their heart's content all night long if they want to. And the kids have a burning bowl that has the gel fuel like you get when you go camping, so they can't burn themselves, and they cook marshmallows on that. So they have their own little fire circle. And we have a trail all the way through, and we're designing a memorial garden. So we want people to be able to walk and do meditations outside. And just the idea of thinking of your entire church is not just the walls of the building, not just the hurricane windows. The whole place is a refugia. The whole place. Awesome? Okay. Let's see if I got anything good else to say here. The Underground Railroad was a refugia. Church basements that became sanctuaries for refugees, they're refugia. You know, are you showing up and telling the truth at the school board meeting? You're creating refugia. Bring it with you. Bring your community with you. The African idea of Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. Don't try to do it by yourself. That is a very old Unitarian idea that is based on sexism. Because I guarantee you that Emerson's wife, if she didn't have Henry David Thoreau cutting the wood, if Henry David Thoreau didn't have his mom making the donuts and bread for him every week, he would not have made it at Walden. So this idea of self-reliance and that you have to do everything on your own is just crap. It is. So we've got each other. Together we can do amazing things. Let's do them. Amen? Amen. That was enough.